This mask costs $1,000 and is almost undetectable. This is just a consumer grade model and the technology is getting better and better. One could assume that a government grade version of this, which would cost a lot more, would be 100% undetectable. Do you think this is going too far?
You guys see that fan switch
That's
right there?
not the ball.
Man, he was ready. Right, had the other ball in his pocket, kept the real one, threw the other one out.
They saw me. Can't hide nowadays.
On your marks, set.
That was way faster than I thought. I thought I was gonna run off of that. I bet no Olympian can beat me this high up. Take a look over the edge. Mwah.
So you cannot own them and you cannot put them on your Glock, because if you do, you go to jail. When you put a switch on this Glock and then you press that trigger, it will go. That's illegal.
Here's the thing that I've always wanted to ask someone like you. What do you think was happening before the Big Bang?
Yeah. One is, it could be that the Big Bang was an interesting event, but not the first event. It may have experienced its own Big Bangs, maybe a collection of Big Bangs that may extend infinitely far into the past. However, another answer is that the very question may not make as much sense as the words seem to suggest. Imagine you're walking on planet Earth and you pass by someone and you say, hey, can you point me in the direction of north? I want to walk in the northward direction. They point you, continue to walk. But when you get to the North Pole and talk to somebody there and say, hey, how do I go further north? They look at you and say, whoa, that question doesn't mean anything because there's no notion of going further north than the North Pole. But if you go to 13.8 billion years ago, the Big Bang, that may be where time started. And you can't go further back in time than the very origin of time itself.
That freaks me out.
Firstly, I don't think you should keep a few $100 million sitting in a bank account ever. I don't care what bank it is. Other than cash we need for daily needs, we keep that number pretty small. Everything else is in a U.S. Treasury money market account, or we own U.S. Treasury bills directly. So we're not taking bank risk, we're just facing the U.S. sovereign. And then the cash we keep on hand, we do keep at a JP Morgan or at our prime broker, Goldman Sachs and UBS. And we monitor those institutions kind of very carefully.
You ever look at a homeless person sitting on the corner and think to yourself, must be nice? You know, just to be like, fuck it. You don't give a fuck who's president. You see some pretty lady go by, you already know you're not gonna fuck her. Might as well pull your dick out. She runs, you laugh, get high fives from the boys. Cause what's gonna happen? You're gonna call the police? Officer, what are you gonna do now? Take me in and give me a bed?
The worst ways to die in history. Episode 5. The tapeworm diet. To be beautiful in the Victorian era, you had to be very, very thin. This was naturally quite hard to achieve, but there was one diet that was all the rage. The tapeworm diet. The patient would willfully take the pill containing the egg of a tapeworm, which they then raise inside of their stomach for months until it grew to maturity, feeding on all of their calories and helping them to achieve that coveted 16-inch waist. That's to say if it didn't kill them first. Most tapeworms attach to the intestine, but larvae can also attach to the heart, eyes, lungs, or brain. They can grow up to 30 feet long, and excreting one is a horrific experience that can take days. And what happens if the worm doesn't come out the other end on its own? Well, doctors would go fishing inside the patient's digestive tract, inserting a metal cylinder stuffed with bait through the host's mouth down into their intestines. The procedure often caused the patient to choke to death before the worm could even be caught. And you might be wondering why this was so popular, but remember, this was a time when people ingested mercury and bathed in arsenic, so this kind of thing was par for the course.
I can't write off a Rolex, but if I start a YouTube channel where I talk about watch trading and I start buying Rolexes and watches and hold them as inventory, the Rolexes that I spent my money on are inventory for my business, which now makes my watches ordinary, necessary, and reasonable in the pursuit of income underneath code section 162A.
Ladies and gentlemen, what do we have? Dead wrong. The YouTube channel distractor 162A, ordinary, necessary, reasonable, no matter how many times he says 162A, that doesn't make it the only code section for inventory. It is code section 471. And under code section 471, inventory is typically capitalized, which quite literally means it is not deducted. But let's say you qualify for one of the exceptions and deduct it. It doesn't really matter because when you resell the inventory, it's going to then be taxed and you won't even get the benefit of that deduction. If you're genuinely in the business of actually reselling it, you wouldn't typically have that long of a sales cycle. And for more accurate tax advice from a tax attorney, subscribe.